by Washington and the Western allies is that the war was going to start 2 days ago, and it was going to be an all-out major war. That was believed until we passed those dates. And just yesterday, there's a note that maybe all of the preparation that the Western powers did scared the Iranians off from a major event. I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you respond to this. Please, if there's anybody who'd like to share something, what do you think? Do you think the Iranians are still going to come back today, tomorrow, next week with a major assault? Or did the organization of the West convince them not to? Any thoughts? Steve Miller.
I just think that it's too risky for them. We haven't introduced more sanctions. We've let them keep some of the money they have. There's no upside for them doing anything. So I just think they were sword rattling, and it's going to quietly go away.
Your mouth to God's ears, Steve.
Well, I'm not saying Iran's not going to be a problem. I'm just saying in terms of some immediate escalation into some enormous war, I just don't see that happening.
That's interesting. Anybody else with a thought about where we stand with this challenge?
I have a thought.
Okay, Howard, yes.
I believe that they don't want to start a big war until they have their nuclear weapons capability developed. So they're waiting.
Yeah, but the nuclear weapon weight is short term. I mean, it could be, if they really put their mind to it and want to use a nuclear weapon, they got a couple of weeks they can do it.
Well, no, that's actually a little I think there's some misleading information out there. It might be a couple of weeks for them to enrich uranium to a certain level, but that doesn't mean you have missiles and guidance systems and command and control, and that you have detonation mechanisms and bombs and all that. I don't think I haven't heard that they've been working on that.
Okay, let's go with it, Harvey.
Yeah, I think they'll be more subtle. I think they'll go for softer targets like consulates or ambassadors, something like that. And I think it may not happen in Israel. It'll happen in Europe, maybe, or could be in Africa, South America. It could be any place. But it's, wherever Israel has people, they're at risk. They're always at risk, but even more so now. That's my opinion, anyways.
Okay, that's great. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Do you think we're looking at a looming war? And apparently, you don't think so. Okay. My own feeling is that the Iranians will attack and that there will be something, and it's not going to be a devastating war, but I do believe that the Iranians are locked into a position in which they have to respond or they lose face. So anyway, that's one of the things that's going on. We have people canceling trips to Israel, and we have people who are, like visiting or on programs leaving Israel. So the Iranians at least have succeeded in bothering a lot of people. And I don't know what we can do with that. Okay, I'm going to move on, having solved the question of war in the Middle East. Going to move on to the next topic. Do you know how many evacuees were driven out of the northern part of Israel to live in hotels or God knows what in central Israel because of the Hezbollah rocket attacks. 600,000.
Yep.
Is that right? No, 60,000.
60,000.
60,000. Definitely 60,000. How many zeros? 1, 2, 3,
4.
60,000. Hezbollah is now bombing, rocketing northern Israel with impunity. I'm going to make a comment. I think that the Israeli planners, war responders, made a terrible mistake. I think that withdrawing Israelis from the north has unintentionally resulted in giving Hezbollah control over that northern part of Israel. And they're taking full advantage of it. Any thoughts by you on that? I look at the evacuees. It's a really difficult scene. A lot of people uncomfortable, a lot of people scared, and the land that they occupied is being turned into a wasteland. If they ever come back, they will come back to nothing. To nothing. Is that what Israel intended? Steve, please.
I don't know what's intended. I think that Hezbollah was going to increase this rocket fire and go on and on no matter what. And after October 7th, I don't think Israel was prepared to see any more Israelis die. And I feel they had no choice, and somehow there will be a way to get the land back and to rebuild. They always do. And that's and what happened is the lesser of the evils.
I'd like to hear if other people feel the same or differently, because I think Steve and I view this differently, and I'd love your opinions. So what do you think? What do you think? Steve Gordon, what do you think, Steve?
Well, my mother has cousins on a kibbutz in Nahariya. I've been there to kibbutz Evron, which is they haven't evacuated from Nahariya yet. And it's a terrible situation. They're very worried. It's not just that 60,000 or in the north, but rockets can strike 10, 20 miles in. So they're in danger even beyond that. But I think what some of the people are saying is correct. I just don't think the operational forces are there to fight a two-front war. And we heard a lot that they wanted to finish the war in Gaza before they moved on to the north. And it's obviously been going on longer than anyone expected.
Okay, thank you. That's a clear position. Herb and Sylvia.
It's me. I don't think that it would be reasonable to leave a lot of people, 60,000 of them, in an area where they're going to be the object of missiles and other attacks. They'd already lost all of those people because of the Gaza invasion. I think it was, in terms of saving human life, it was a smart thing to move them out. And since their lives are more important than the land or their houses or whatever, I think it was the right move for them to make.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Harv.
About 3 weeks ago at Friday night services, Rabbi had a visitor from a kibbutz in Israel, which had been evacuated.
Yes.
And what he said just shows the courage, ferocity, the willingness to deal with whatever they're given. He had to move his family to a hotel. The hotel was paid for, 2 rooms in a hotel. He had, I think, 3 kids, something like that. And so they had 2 rooms in a hotel that the government pays for, but they have to figure out food, which I guess some of it's provided by the hotel. They had to figure out schooling because the schools in the area, it was in the Negev someplace. The schools were overloaded to begin with, so they started their own school. The people who were evacuated got together, they figured out who could teach, and they started their own schools. The Israelis kind of muddle through things, but in a good way. And that was kind of the take-home message we got when we heard this guy. It was really impressive. I don't think he ever questioned the government as far as them being evacuated. He knew he couldn't stay there. So that was kind of part of the message too. But it was a really eye-opening talk that he gave about how they could just react to all of this. A lot of people would have just thrown their hands up and said, oh, woe is me, and so on and so forth. They didn't do that. They just dealt with their own problems and came out of it pretty much unscathed so far. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to offer an opinion on this? Doris Ruffelston, hi. Steve? No? I have to say, that in my mind, Israel should not have given in to the inevitability of Hezbollah bombing that 20-mile strip, and that Israel needed, if in the military or in defense of a country, you don't act to defend the country, you're going to pay a price. Now, I'm going to draw a parallel, which Steve will obviously jump all over.
I'll try.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It slipped, okay? It went from my brain. But in dealing with Hezbollah, Israel gave away 20 miles of its own territory. And it is my opinion that that decision, no matter how justified, is going to be very, very costly.
Yep.
Very costly. And being able to convince the people to get back is going to require proving that they're safe. And boy, how do you do that under these circumstances? No, I would have, Harv.
You're right. I totally disagree with you.
You think it's okay to give back property?
I don't think anyone believes they gave it away. It's a strategic temporary move. And I think like people are going to go back to the Gaza envelope. I think that's how the Israelis are. That's how they will be. And at the right time, the right thing will happen. Anybody who reads this as essentially giving this land to Hezbollah or Lebanon or anyone else, I believe is missing the point. Look at the lengths they're going to in Gaza. At some point, Gaza's over, and Israel will always protect its people and its land. So anyone who thinks that they've just given this away and is abandoning anything, I think is missing the boat.
Okay, so Steve and I have a disagreement on this, and I guess it's one of those things. I would have preferred Israel bombing the hell out of the southern border of Lebanon. And as long as they were firing into northern Israel, they were going to pay a price. So far, Hezbollah has not paid a price.
No.
And they have occupied or they have emptied out a 20-mile, it's not square mile, but a segment of Israel. A hunk of Israel has now been declared to be what? No man's land?
It's
How
still
can I afford to
Israeli
give-
land. There's just nobody living there.
No, but how can they afford to give away property? They're so small. They don't have enough to give away, do they?
No, I don't think so.
It's
I
not given
But
away. It's still theirs.
Why do you
has
think they
anybody
did that?
given, Rabbi, has anybody given any thought to the fact that Israel does not want to, nor can they afford to fight two wars?
Herman, that's almost old news because Israel has moved much of its army to the northern border. They are getting ready for an expected military operation there. And you're right. Can Israel run a two-front war? What about a three-front war? And then all the political consequences. This is a serious, serious charge. If Iran comes in, there are two possibilities with Iran right now. One is that, three. One is that Iran won't attack big, but they'll do what you suggested, several of you. They'll go for diplomats and Israeli buildings in various places of the world and take revenge that way. The second is they'll do nothing. The third is they will go to war. They will go to war. And if they make that decision, Israel has now positioned itself so that in whatever is going on in the Iranian government, military, Israel seems to know. And now they're talking about if the decision to go is made on a war against Israel, Israel will strike preemptively. And you know how the nations of the world will hate that. Right? They will hate it. So, Herman, I think that second front story has already been absorbed. They're getting ready to fight a two-front military operation.
Do you think the United States is going to come in and help them?
Pardon?
Will the United States help them?
Which is
Will the United States help them?
the United States will come in.
They will.
But
And
not with people.
But not with boots on the ground, no.
No, but the United States, no matter what we think, did beautifully in the last Iranian assault. And they're going to they're going to be very, very important. Yes, I think the United States will come in.
I hope so.
And in that process, going to make a lot of left-wing Americans very angry.
Yeah, for sure.
If the United States comes in a war against Iran, Russia has to come in on Iran's side. You know what you have then, don't you?
A really nice restaurant menu, a little bit of borscht, a little bit of chop. I hear you, Herman. Yes. Yes, this is a mini world war in the Middle East, if it can be contained there. Nevertheless, Herman, in the face of existential threat, you have to make a decision. And I am all in favor of not thinking, Steve, it'll work out well. It always does. I'm not one of those. And you're right, in the past, it always has. I don't know.
I'm an optimist, and I also, if I want to keep my sanity, things have always worked out, and my optimism says they will again, and I have my faith.
Yeah, I mean, no one can start up and say, hey, you're wrong. But because no one knows what's right. No one. But I also know that Bibi has a vested interest in keeping the fighting going.
Going, really.
And that's playing out in all of this. So whether Israel should respond, let's say that Iran comes at Israel with a heavy military, bombing, drones, that stuff. No invasion, but that stuff. Israel is going to make a decision, but it doesn't even have a decision. They must respond. And the United States has already issued a request to Israel that when Iran comes at us with a heavy assault, Israel will, what's the proper term? Modify, control its response. It's almost like saying, you're going to fight this war with one hand behind your back. And that's the position Israel is in because it's totally dependent upon the American security umbrella. Totally dependent. I would, offer a mild story about when our son Ron was in junior high school, having left day school, the security of day school. He found in that place some very aggressive kids who have negative attitudes toward Jews. And Ron made it his business to find the biggest, ugliest, meanest Puerto Rican kid in school and make him his friend. Them hung out totally. Ron had no trouble throughout middle school. None. That's because this golem was there to protect. But that's the same thing Israel has
These kids would become his protectors.
with the United States. All right, so we've now decided that we don't know if there's going to be a war. Some of us are not happy with the evacuees, and we can't figure out how Israel should respond to the coming trouble. So we're going to leave that unless someone has something to offer that would explain something. No, Risa's laughing, haha. Okay, now we're going to go to something which you might have heard about. Are you aware that Kamala Harris has not chosen Governor Shapiro, as her vice president?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I have to tell you, in the emails that I've received in the last couple days, there are some people, devoted, caring Zionists. Some people are saying, thank God, so we don't have to have Shapiro's position argued if something bad happens to Israel. So I don't know how you feel. Do you feel
His old position that he espoused 30 years ago.
do you feel that not choosing Shapiro was good for Israel?
Was not good, was good for
Was
Israel.
good. The question is, was it good for Israel to pull the Jew out of the lights and not have the Jew be the focus of far left attacks? Any thoughts? Was this a good thing for Israel that Shapiro was not chosen?
It may have been a good thing for everybody, not only Israel.
Tell why do you think that?
Well, because first of all, the anti-Semitism going on in this country is outrageous. And I mean, I think to not pick somebody because they're Jewish is also outrageous. You don't pick somebody by their religion.
Of course you do.
I mean, that's horrible, you know. But
Of course.
What'd you say, Steve?
Oh, I
go
didn't say anything.
Good, please finish up.
No, that's all I was saying that. First of all, she's anti-Semitic, number one. Why would she pick a Jew to be her running mate?
What?
She's what? Where'd you get that from?
Yeah,
From the news that I watch every day.
Okay,
much
It's called
different.
Fox News.
ladies and gentlemen, we agreed not to attack each other physically until after our conversation is over. Okay, so we see Doris saying that she views Kamala as anti-Semitic, and that in a way, it's good that she doesn't have Shapiro there to cause more anti-Semitism.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so that's you, Doris. Thank you. And I see, let me go back up to the, okay, Harvey.
Well, I would just like to point out that Harris is married to a Jew.
Doesn't mean a thing.
It means a lot. If you're anti-Semitic, you don't marry a Jew.
Means
You don't
nothing.
have a Jew in a house. I mean, I could go on, and it's just a waste of time. So
Nah.
I'm not going to go on.
Nah, don't go there.
No, let's stay out of the political scene here.
Right, right.
That's not possible.
Okay, okay. Steve?
I think vis-a-vis Israel, it's neutral. I think despite how the Republican Party wants to push it and attack and everything else, when push comes to shove, the Democrats are going to support Israel like they always have. Yet another member of the squad lost a primary yesterday.
Oh, good.
I think that, so that's like 3 or 4 now. I think it's a benefit for us. I don't know, I personally would have liked Shapiro to run as the vice president. I think she made what she thought was a good choice. I think the way he's being portrayed, Waltz is being portrayed as an ultra progressive, is ridiculous. If you just look, I mean, going from pro-gun to wanting gun control is hardly making you a member of the squad. There's a lot going on with appearances, and I think she made a choice that might prevent some of the finger pointing and infighting to help win the election. And if the Democrats don't win, we're in trouble. And I fear that when they do win, we're going to have a civil war. I'm more worried about that war than a war in Israel.
Thank you. Herb, Sylvia?
I know that most of you probably will disagree. I do not think this country is ready for a Jew in an office that could become president. I mean, hopefully, if Kamala wins, she stays there for 8 years. We're good.
Oh,
But I think that having a Jewish running mate on top of having a Jewish husband is all kinds of distraction that's unnecessary and doesn't really advance the cause. I don't know very much about Waltz. I didn't like my high school social studies teacher, but that's irrelevant. But I think she chose him because she wanted someone that could be the personification of Midwestern values, whatever they are. And that's a perfectly good reason. I think had she chosen Shapiro, she would have added a whole layer of hostility that's unnecessary and unpleasant.
Okay, you have to understand, I'm sure you do understand, this debate is rocketing through every Jewish organization. They are bringing the topic up. They are debating it. Has the Democratic Party been captured by far-left anti-Semites? or not? And was the selection of Shapiro poisoned because he was Jewish? And okay, Herb, Sylvia, your hands are still up.
Okay, I don't know that poisoned is the right word. I think caution is probably a really good value at this time, and I think she's exhibiting caution. There you go.
Okay, this is a very fraught topic. Forgive me, very fraught. Brad Ellison, you are sitting there quietly. I won't permit that.
Rabbi, I really have nothing important to add, but thank you for reaching out.
No, Brad, do you think that Kamala Harris is anti-Semitic?
Of course not. I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Do you think that Shapiro was not chosen because of his Jewish identity?
Yes.
I think that was a factor. I don't think that was the only factor, but I think it definitely was a factor.
And how many of you believe that the United States just can't be ready for a senior executive being Jewish?
This senior executive, not any senior.
Sylvia? I didn't hear you, Sylvia. I'm sorry, though I know your position.
That's an interesting question, Rabbi.
I think we're going to have enough trouble with a Black Asian woman. I don't think that she needed to add extra tsaras onto her ticket.
I don't think she picked Rawls because she wanted to avoid Shapiro. She picked him for a centrist or leftist centrist. She picked somebody from the Midwest. So pick someone who's not considered elite. After all the Republicans are saying they're the elitists of the Democratic Party, they want to vote against that. So she picked a more moderate type person.
I agree.
Okay. So Merrill, I have not heard you. Can you speak even though you said you wanted to be silent? Okay, she's going to figure out how the computer works.
I don't know. I wanted to stay away from this subject, Steve. And I
Okay,
guess you're right.
Herman,
Can't. It's impossible.
Hold on one second. Go ahead, Merle.
I'm having sound problems with my computer and my tablet. I don't believe she's anti-Semitic. Two, my husband, because of his business and who his clients are, reads more news than any of us in this whole room. And I would say that he hasn't heard anything about that from his clients who could be conceived, many of them, as anti-Semitic, including his business partner. I think that she made a very wise decision. And I think that they are looking out for the welfare of the rest of us. And that's all I can really say. I'm praying that we are in a position where we're going to be safe.
To say that we are not ready for a Jewish vice president, it's a very interesting statement. Al Smith lost an election because he was Catholic. We weren't ready for a Catholic. Along came John Kennedy. We weren't ready for a black man. Along came Obama. These things are changing. I happen to believe also that it are not taking a Jew was not necessarily because of the fact that he's Jewish, but because he really sides with Israel. And I think she would have brought Israel too much to the front if in this campaign. She didn't take Kelly because she couldn't bring the border into the picture. She took what she thought was the best of the three for everybody concerned. But to come out and say that she didn't take a Jew because he's Jewish, I can accept part of that, but not all of it.
Really?
Thank you. Thank you. Ray?
Thank you. These issues are stacked so deep. Every single one of them has so much nuance and a lot to untangle. I'm responding in part to Herman, but generally on the question of strategically whether a Jew should have been named as running mate. And Herman, I generally agree with you in one sense, that it may well, forgetting other events, be time for this country to accept more diversity in that ticket, including somebody Jewish. On the other hand, the very particular circumstances of the Israel-Gaza war and all of the demonstrations on college campuses and everything else that we've seen, I think has upset that timetable in a way that is unnatural, but we cannot afford to ignore it. And for all kinds of reasons, not just electability, when there's a lot of hostility, when there are a lot of Muslim populations, like in Dearborn, Michigan, a crucial swing state, that have already put, when it was Biden, this ticket on notice that they are provisionally not supporting him. When all of this is happening, and correct or not, people on the forceful left are lumping together indiscriminately the crimes they see Netanyahu doing and Jewish people generally, which is horrific. The fewer complications right now, the better. And yes, I believe in the big picture, I hope we are trending toward the time when a Jew will be president of the United States. But so much is defeating the possibility of even arriving on that ticket now if we give the detractors with good and bad intentions enough distraction to scuttle the ticket. I think it's probably safer that this year it's not a Jew on the ticket, even if, Herman, I generally agree with you.
Okay, Howard, please.
Well, I'm kind of confused. I think it would have been, my feeling before this discussion was that I was glad that they didn't pick Shapiro, because it would have really muddied the water. I think that I'm concerned that since Kamala Harris was one of the most left-wing senators while she was a senator, well, maybe one of the three, certainly one of them.
I didn't hear your descriptive. She was one of the what senators?
She was probably the most left-wing, or politics. What do we know about her politics? Has she said anything so far in the last 2 weeks that wasn't scripted and run through a committee and read off a teleprompter so far? No. So who is the real Kamala Harris, who told the Palestinians, "I hear you and I see you"? And she picked. I'm distressed. This guy Waltz. I'm happy to see him because he looks like somebody that might help him get votes. But on the other hand, his record is also with the so-called progressives, which include all the self-hating Jews in the Congress, and I'm hoping for the best. The worst that could happen is better than anything that could happen if the Republicans won.
Sorry, I have to disagree. It's okay.
Okay. Howard, let me just offer, I think, a correction. The vice president, not even nominee, whatever he is, a designate, has a strong history in Minnesota of working with the Jewish community and for Israel, and in reacting to October 7th. If you just check that, I have really received comments from the Jewish Federation directors and the others and the community activists and the Israeli Zionist activists, they think he's pretty good on Israel and for the Jews.
I actually, I am encouraged by that, and I have seen that. So maybe that's not so bad, but nevertheless, he kind of fits in with the far left part of the Democratic Party, which includes a lot of people that really are pretty anti-Israel
and anti-Semitic. Yes, indeed. Okay, I see a lot of hands. So I'm going, Marilyn, are you raising your hand? No? Okay. Harvin, Mara, and then Brad, please.
Sorry, I've been lurking. Just a couple of comments. First one that addresses Kamala Harris and anti-Semitism. I as well as probably everyone in this group condemn what's going on in Gaza. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. When I read descriptions of what happened to women, I have the desire that Israel bomb Gaza off the face of the earth. However, then I say to myself, if I am not compassionate, I am not a Jew. And when I listen to Kamala Harris and what she has said, where she says that I feel for the people in Gaza, to me, she is speaking out of a Jewish sensibility, not an anti-Semitic sensibility. And that gives me great hope. Secondly, Doris, you don't have to laugh at everything when
okay.
people say things that you don't
Okay.
disagree with.
That wasn't for
Let's move forward.
Secondly, in terms of Waltz, I think we need to look at his candidacy in terms of its usefulness to the Democrats from a marketing perspective. And one of the things about Waltz is his background as a high school coach, football coach. And one of the groups that need to be targeted that the Democrats have been losing is the young male vote. And so that characteristic, that background is of great appeal to younger male voters. And I don't want to go through a number of other marketing values to marketing, but that's just an example.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Well, Rabbi, I just lowered my hand because Mara pretty much took the words out of my mouth. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. I hope it was a hygienic removal. Anyone else want to come in on this? The Jewish internet is very heavy right now in condemning the failure to select a Jew. And they viewed this as an opportunity, an American statement, and for God's sake, why not? And so there's a lot of upset about that. There was one commentator 2 days ago who said, if the Democrats lose the election because they couldn't hold Pennsylvania, there is going to be hell to pay. And I pretty much agree. I think that that's a reality. Anyone else want to come in on this topic? Anyone else? Okay. Oh, Steve, you get the last voice.
Mona gets the last word.
Hi, I've been listening in the background. I just wanted to say, in terms of presenting an effective campaign, I think Kamala Harris selected a person who stylistically is completely different from her. So there's something avuncular, all-American, very Midwestern, very sincere, very plain-spoken about Walz. All the footage I've seen of him, he has a sort of a completely different affect and style from her. So I think she must have factored process.
I'm sorry? Did I lose you?
To her selection process.
Okay, we lost the sound for a few minutes.
Oh, okay, it's back.
I was just saying, I think Harris must have factored in Walz's style and the overall kind of impression that he makes into her selection process.
Okay, I have a quote here. From the Jewish Community Relations Council of Minnesota, JCRC. Governor Walz has a long record of friendship with both his Jewish constituents in the state of Israel. Governor Walz has spoken to 3 of the JCRC's past 4 non-election year annual events. He has spoken up forcefully in support of Israel and against those who seek to delegitimize it. Governor Walz also has spoken about the importance of moral clarity, of standing in solidarity with Israel against the terrorism of Hamas, both on June 2nd and October 10th. Okay, so that's kind of, I don't know, people can sell their points of view cheaply, but that seems to be, I think he's okay. I think he's okay Jewish, but we can only tell. I have one more topic, and that topic is very tough. When is the Democrat convention? When is it? 20th? Okay, today is the 7th. I think we will get one of the clearest statements about the place of Israel and the Jewish people in the Democratic platform. I am well aware that there is a battle going on now to shape that platform in one direction or another. You may properly say that platforms are to be voted upon and forgotten. And maybe that's true. But there is going to be a huge floor fight about Israel and about the place of Jews. And no matter who is the vice president designate, that protest is going to happen. So, I mean, if you want to be aware of what makes me uncomfortable, it's what's going to happen with that platform. Do you have any thoughts or responses on my latest fear?
We can certainly remember the previous
I'm sorry?
discussion where there was a minority that were very strong minority that were pushing for the most anti-Israel possible platform.
we're going to have to wait and see who wins. And how much juice that Kamala is going to put in there. I have a request. Wait a second, I have to check this. Is this a request for me to sing?
I hope not.
Hope not. Sneer, you have a question? Sneer Levy, you have a question? Ray, can you answer for Sneer? Something's going on. Ray, where are you?
Ray Coster, and I'm here. I'm not sure I was saying anything of note for a while, but what is on your mind?
So what is Sneer asking for?
I'll answer her question. He wants to know the question is what in the policy of the Democratic Party would be a problem for the pro-Palestinian progressives. And I think it's very simple. They hate Israel, they're anti-Semitics, and they don't want us to spend a penny protecting Israel, giving money or military support to Israel, training to Israel, despite the fact that most of that money is spent here and we benefit from a lot of the technology. They want zero support for Israel, and they want to get Israel wiped off the map and given to the Palestinians. And so anything in the platform, which will remain, I am 100% positive, the Democratic platform will remain supportive of Israel. I don't see any major changes. If anything, I think it'll be better than it has been lately under Biden. And that's what they object to.
Any thoughts about the platform? Steve, what? Oh, any
I was
thoughts?
asking Sneer if that answered the question.
Any thoughts about the platform and Sneer's question? From my point of view, at this point, I have not read a lot about the platform negotiations. They're way underground at this point. But now that there's a president and a vice president nominee, they're going to come up. And the question is going to be, maybe that we should treat the situation as both parties with equal claims. In my mind, that would be almost as bad as simply embracing the Palestinian platform. I fear in the negotiations for whatever it is the Democrats will do, they will create a parallel between Israel's right of self-defense and Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah's need to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Okay? That's where I am. And, with my generally congenial path, that's where I'm going to end today, unless there is someone who has something that needs to be said about the current situation, and I will accept such voices now. Okay, Howard?
Question before the convention is the 19th of August.
Okay, thank you. Howard? I'm not hearing you. I'm sorry.
Sorry. This is really off topic, but I just can't resist mentioning it. We saw the list of 90 high school graduates from WBT and what schools they went to. And
yes.
The Harvard admissions rate overall is 3%, and the total number who were admitted to Harvard out of 90 was 0. I find that interesting.
By the way, I read that list in the bulletin or whatever, and I think it's well worth looking at. You can get some gems out of that list of where people are going. Have a wonderful week. This has been a week of turmoil, but decisions have been made. And what are we going to do about it? I hope that in your own plans, you have plans to post an email or Facebook or whatever to talk with your friends about the need to vote. Absolute need to vote. With that, I thank you, sending you love. Saturday, I'll be back in the Torah saddle, and this is great. I feel great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
you
This was
so-
wonderful discussion as always.
Take care.
Thank
Helpful.
you.
See you Saturday.
Stay well, Rabbi.
Be well,
Farewell.
Rabbi.
Be well.
Thanks. Great to see everyone.
No.